Okay? So God created duality so he could know oneness, so he could know himself through duality. So God is consciousness. God asks the same questions that any conscious being does. Is, who am I? Why am I here? What is the meaning of all of this? But God is infinitely powerful, so God just creates it, right? God is the infinite creator. In its purest, most absolute form, God is oneness, God is formless, all-knowing, omniscience, right? Omniscient. God is, and we know that God has to be formless because anything that has form is limited by its form, right? I can't reach for 5 things at once because I only have 2 arms, right? So if God is infinite and all-powerful, he has to be formless. There's just no other option, right? And so when God created duality, he introduces a lot more to the system, right? And so as he splits himself into separate beings we call souls, right? The soul, as described in Journeys Out of the Body, is in constant presence of the Father, is still all-knowing, light, love, all that wonderful stuff. There has to be a way for the soul to not know. Because it's very simple to say, oh, well, I'm one because I'm one with the Father and I know everything, right? So the soul has to be able to forget who it is. But the soul can't do that, just as God can't forget. It's like God can't create something outside of himself. God is everything and there's nowhere else to put it. So the Christian theology of, well, God's up here and this is God's kingdom and then hell's over here somewhere and then earth's over here somewhere, right? It doesn't jive. It can't. Because God is everything and therefore everything has to be a part of God. So why would he create hell within himself to throw us into just to punish us for a system that he designed, right? So in order for the spirit, the soul, or for God or whoever to know himself, it has to figure out a way to forget. So the soul creates the mind, right? And the mind doesn't know who it is. That's the purpose of the mind. The mind is trying to figure out who it is, right? And then the mind decides to go, through co-creation with the spiritual, decides to go into the physical and take physical form and creates the astral body, which is the blueprint for the physical body. In Journeys Out of the Body, he makes a minor error. He refers to the astral body as the second body. It's the blueprint. It's the first body. The physical body is the second body. The physical body is the illusion, right? So the mind goes into the physical body, has no idea what it's doing. It appears to be separate, right? And so it's going through this physical experience of duality in form, trying to experience who it is by not knowing, or by knowing who it isn't, right? And eventually finding its way all the way back up the chain. So essentially what you're doing is it's lowering the vibrations and the density to the point where you get to the physical, and then the act of evolution is basically, or spiritual evolution, is just raising your vibrations, increasing your power, and moving into alignment with this. There's really only one thing, it's alignment or non-alignment with your higher self. Now we chose to be in the physical for a reason. There is a reason and a purpose for everything. So there's lots of people who discover this part of everything, and they're like, I just want to go into the astral plane and just play around in there and do whatever you want. Well, you do that every night when you go to sleep anyway, so don't worry about it. There's a reason you're in the physical, so don't discount the physical and say, well, I just can't wait to die or go into the metaphysical realm or whatever and find out what that's like. I mean, the joy is in the creation here. The example I use is that, this is, God is a creator. Spiritual is, your soul is a creator. The mind is a creator. The body is a creator, right? You are made in the image and likeness of God. That's what it means. You are always creating. You can't not create. Your body is creating new cells all the time. It's trying to create that experience. But basically what you're doing is, I like to describe this as the architectural blueprint of the house. The soul is conceiving of the ideas. The mind is drafting the blueprint, and then the physical body is experiencing that blueprint. There's a story in one of William Buhlman's books, who I think runs the Monroe Institute right now. He says, backing up, Edgar Cayce, one of the most documented psychics of all time, he used a sleeping trance channel. His guides used to say frequently, the mind is the builder, right? And that's really what it is. It's holding the blueprint for everything. That's where all the data comes from. It's from the mind, from the metaphysical realm, from the Akashic records, if you ever heard that. So this guy William Buhlman, who runs the Monroe Institute, he was talking about one of his out-of-body experiences, and what he was doing is he was laying on the couch, and he leaves the body, and then what he does is he projects himself about 10 feet away, right? Just to make sure he's out, right? To get far enough away that he's not really going to get sucked in unless he consciously thinks of the body. And he happened to be doing this in his living room. And at the time, in the physical reality, they bought the new house, but they decided they didn't like the fireplace. So they were working with contractors to try and figure out a new design for the fireplace and figure out what they wanted it to look like. So this guy comes out of his body, and he's still in the densest portion of the astral reality. He looks over to his fireplace, and it's starting to change, right? So in his mind, he's already crafting this, and it's already taking physical form in the astral reality, because that's where it has to be created first. Everything is created first in thought, then in word, and then in deed. So the idea is that we have to understand that each portion of us is here for a reason. It accomplishes a specific purpose. So we don't want to discount any of it. And in terms of just trying to understand what all this stuff is, again, this is it's a blueprint that teaches you how everything is laid out, so that going forward you can be like, okay, this master said this, and this is in alignment, so that you know that that's true, and then this teacher doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, and then you can just ignore them.